So after the Jews defeated some of their enemies, they took title to the east bank of the Jordan River, just outside the land of Israel. And two of the tribes, Reuven and Gad, approached Moshe, and asked for permission to settle in the east bank, which was great for pasturing flocks, and they had very expansive flocks. Moshe got very upset at the request. He said, "You're going to stay here while your brethren, the other tribes, do battle against the Canaanites in the Holy Land? How dare you? Don't you remember what happened at the time of the spies, when they turned the hearts of the nation away and convinced them not to want to follow God's command to enter Israel?" And the tribal leaders of Reuven and Gad reassured Moshe. They said, "No, that's not our intention. We want to live here, but we will send our men. We will send our armies to fight arm in arm with our brethren, with the other tribes against the Canaanites. And only after that war will we return to our wives and children on the east bank." Moshe extracted a promise that they would do so, and he allowed them to settle on the east bank. Later, they kept their promise. Their armies fought for 7 years alongside their brethren, the other tribes, against the Canaanites. And only then did they return to the east bank. When they returned, we're told in the book of Joshua, they built a large altar. And when word got back to Joshua, to Yehoshua, he was very upset and worried. He sent a delegation led by Pinchas and 10 tribal leaders to investigate what was going on. Were the tribes of Reuven and Gad violating the Torah edict against bringing sacrifices outside the Holy Land? When they arrived, the leaders of Reuven and Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh, which had also settled in the East Bank, explained, "No, that's not what we're doing. We didn't build that altar to bring sacrifices. We built it as a symbolic altar, a ceremonial altar, because we're worried. We're worried that someday your children, your sons that are living in Israel, will tell our sons, 'You're not real Jews. You don't have a portion with the God of Israel.' And they turn the hearts of our sons astray. So instead, we built a symbolic altar to teach our children, to show them that altar faces Israel. Our hearts are with Israel. We're all Jews. We're all one nation. Our hearts are in Jerusalem. Our hearts are in the temple." Nowadays, those of us who live in exile, in the diaspora, outside Israel, are in a sense the geographic or ideological descendants of the tribes of Reuven and Gad and that half of the tribe of Manasseh. We don't have the luxury of hopping over to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, for a flash of inspiration. Instead, we have to make sure that our symbolic altars, our schools, our synagogues, our study halls, send the message to our children that we're all one nation, we're all Jews, that our hearts are in Israel, our hearts are in Jerusalem. And there's no time more important to send that message than right now with Israel on the brink of war. We've got to fight arm in arm with our brethren who are there in the Holy Land. We've got to do everything in our power to help support Israel in its time of need, financially, emotionally, psychologically, in the public relations arena. We've got to help cut through the outrageous, ludicrous hypocrisy of the media. We've got to explain with courage and with conviction that Israel has the right to protect the territorial integrity of its land, every inch of which was gained legally, and to protect the bodily integrity of each of its residents. Imagine if Cuba started lobbing missiles at Miami. How much restraint do you think the United States would show? More or less than we showed when we nuked 2 cities at the end of World War II, 2 cities in Japan, 2 cities filled with civilians. And we Jews outside Israel have to support and pray for the safety of those incredibly brave soldiers of Tzahal, of the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, who are going in on a daily basis risking their lives. Soldiers to whom every life, Jewish and non-Jewish, is precious. Soldiers who risk their lives to protect civilians. Soldiers in an army that exercises more restraint than any other army in the history of the world. Soldiers who just want peace. And as Golda Meir once said so many years ago, so poignantly, when peace comes, we may in time forgive the Arabs for killing our sons. But it will be harder to forgive them for forcing us to kill their sons. All we want is peace.